This one is going to be good. But I want to check in with you all first. So let me know who's here, where you're dialing in from, so I can greet everyone. And also let me know, what are you hoping to get from today's conversation? If you're here, then you're probably seeing the advertising where I spoke about my credit journey. And I'm going to go and dive deeply into where I started from to where I am now and share my journey, because it always has not been this great. I managed to get an 813. Hi, Debbie. I managed to build an 813 credit score, but it has been a journey. And I'm excited to share all of that with you all, because I really want this conversation to be light, but inspiring. No matter what stage of your life that you're in right now, I want people to know that you can do it too. Because financial literacy is definitely not something that's taught in most schools these days. I don't agree with that. So I think it's good for us to have forums like this where people are willing to be open and honest about their journey so we can learn and grow together. And so that's the whole purpose of Bloom. I want to welcome anyone here also that's new to Bloom. If you've never tuned into any of our episodes, we're a wellness platform and we host live weekly conversations about health, wealth, beauty, finance, and self-love. A lot of people may wonder, oh, hi, Deanne. A lot of people may wonder, what does finance have to do with wellness? But I don't know about you. But when your finances are not in order and together, it causes so much turmoil in your personal life and your marriage. That is actually the number one reason for divorce. So I am not a financial advisor. I'm a realtor actually by trade and also the host of this platform. But I have been through the financial journey and had a lot of downfalls and a lot of climbs uphill to where I am today. And I'm excited to just dive into the conversation so we can go ahead and get this started. So hi, my mother-in-law, welcome. So I put together some slides for you all. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Feel free, if you have any questions that you would like to ask me. I'm being totally open and honest today about my credit journey. So feel free to ask me questions. So the average credit score is actually, let me see if anyone can guess. What do you think the average credit score these days are? Let me see what you're working with. Hi, Shayna. Let us know. What do you think the average credit score is today? So 550, 760, Deanna's pretty close. That's good. 645. Oh, hi, Akeisha. 645. Okay. That's not bad. So thank you for that. 675, Latita. So the average credit score is actually 490. So the average credit score is actually 711, which is not bad. That's not bad at all. But there's so many benefits to, even if you're at that point or even lower, to raising your credit score so you can get into the 800 range. Hi, Charmaine. Thanks for tuning in. And so when we talk about the average credit score is actually 711, but when you look at minorities, 54% of minorities are actually struggling with their credit score right now, which means that their interest rate is going to be a lot higher than other demographics. And so once you're paying higher interest rate, you're preventing yourself from being able to save money for the long term, which eventually affects your family. So this topic is particularly, passionate for me, because I don't know if a lot of people know, but Sean and I have a large blended family. We have 7 children total, which means that you have to manage your finances in a very different way and really plan for the future. So we've had to be very strategic in how we balance our finances. And I remember even my younger years, once I left the house, I was charging up cards and not paying them off when I should. My credit score was in the 500s. It was horrible. And once you're not paying your bills, it takes years for that stuff to fall off. So regardless of where you're at today, whether you transition from a job or you took a pay cut and you need to catch up. I know the pandemic has been hard on a lot of people. We're going to get started and we're just going to talk about that. And I'm going to show you some ways that I was able to move my credit score from the lower 500s up to 813. It is not difficult to do, but it takes consistency. It takes you making yourself a priority. And just doing what you have to do. And hopefully in about 6 to 12 months, you'll start to notice a significant change. So we'll go ahead and get started. So let's start very basic. So what is a credit score? So a credit score is just a 3-digit number designed to represent the likelihood that you'll repay your bills on time. And so the 3 credit bureaus are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And then a lot of people also maybe not understand that there's also a FICO score. A FICO score is basically just a general purpose credit score that lenders use to determine your credit worthiness. Okay, so then we'll just move on to the next one. And so this slide right here is particularly important because it breaks down how your credit score is actually put together. So if you look down at the bottom, you'll see 1% of your credit score is determined by your credit mix. So what does that mean? So the name of the game is actually how you're able to manage the debt that you have and how you're able to manage it properly. So 1% of your credit score is determined by the credit mix. Personal loans, auto loans, mortgage loans, basically diversity amongst the debt that you do have. I'm not saying it has to be a lot of debt, but how are you managing that debt and what types of debt do you have? The next block we're going to talk about is your new credit. So new credit is pretty much self-explanatory. What credit cards and what accounts have you had open, recently? How active have you been on those cards? Are you managing it properly? Are you paying your bills on time? Are you applying for too many credit cards? And then the next one we're going to talk about is the age of your credit. So if you have credit cards, hopefully you've had them for quite some time, because the longer that you have your credit cards, the better that they look on your credit report. So preferably you have credit cards that you've had for 10 to 15 years. Even if you have a credit card right now that has a high balance, you do not want to close that account. That will damage your credit score. Pay your bills off, lower your balance, but keep the card open. Let's go ahead and there we go. And so we'll talk about debt management a little bit further down, but I just want to highlight that. So the next one is the amount owed. See, that's a huge chunk of how your credit score is determined. So that makes up 30%. So basically what that is, if you have a credit card and your balance is $5,000, what percent of that credit limit, so your credit limit is $5,000, what percentage of your credit limit are you actually using? Are you maxing out your cards? Are you using half of it? The general rule is you need to use 30%, no more, than 30% utilization. So if your credit card balance, or your credit limit, I should say, is $5,000, 30% of that is $1,500. You do not ever want to take your balance over $1,500 on that credit card. You don't want to ever charge more than $1,500 on that credit card. That would be a no-no. And then the next block on here is payment history. Payment history is self-explanatory. So, are you paying your bills on time? Are you, basically that's the gist of it. Are you paying your bills on time? Are you showing them that when you're borrowing money, you're using money, you're guaranteeing them that they're going to get their money back on time? You're going to do what you say that you're going to do. And so that's very important too. So really just take this slide in, because this shows you what's really important to people, to lenders, I should say, in determining, if they're going to give you or lend you more money. And again, your credit score is really, really important because, if you're going to purchase a home or, a vehicle or something like that, you're really saving yourself money. Unless you pay cash, you're able to save up enough money and you pay cash. But if you're really going to, get credit, you're saving yourself money the lower your credit score is. There are so many dealerships that people don't realize that will give you 0% financing or even 1% financing if you have an 800 credit score. So we'll talk about the benefits of having an 800 credit score later on, but I just want you to take this in. Does this make sense to everybody? Payment history makes up 35%, amount owed 30%, your age of credit 15, new credit 10, and then credit mix at 1%. So let's get into the good stuff. So a lot of people want to know the reason why you're really here is you want to talk about what powerful tips can I use to boost my credit score. So we're going to get a little bit into credit management. So step one, I hope that everyone here today actually knows what their credit score is. But if you don't, that is okay, because I've been there before too, where you just get so overwhelmed in things that you have to do and experiences that you've had where you just don't even want to deal with it. But that's the wrong action to take. You really want to just dive into it and just know that it's going to be okay. Because I promise you guys, even if someone's on here and you're like, my credit score is at 400, 410, or even 500, it is okay. What matters the most is that you take the necessary steps to push yourself forward and just to try to do better, because there's only up from there. The only thing that you can do is just try to do the best that you can. So you can get access to a free credit report once a year on annualcreditreport.com. And why is this important? Because it allows you to see what's on your credit report, and you can then dispute discrepancies. There are a lot of times where something is posted on your credit report that's not yours, it's not your debt, it belongs to someone else. And if you simply just go on there and dispute it and provide a justification on why that should not be on your credit report, it will be removed. It will simply be removed. And that will instantly boost your credit score. So it's just a matter of learning and realizing what your credit report says, looking through it and showing the creditors that you know what's on there and justifying what belongs to you and what doesn't. And now, since COVID-19, you can actually go on annualcreditreport.com, and Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion will actually offer you free weekly credit reports since the pandemic. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So you don't even have to pay. So that's a savings right there. So if you go on that website, it's easy to set up. It will not give you your credit score, but what it will do is it'll give you your credit report, which is just about as good as that. Now, you have to normally pay for your credit score, but at least you'll be able to go on there and you'll see exactly what's on your credit report and look through it and make sure that there's no discrepancies. Do not sleep on this. This happens to a lot of people where they have a discrepancy that's on their credit report and it does not belong to them. And then they go on there and they remove it, and then their credit score goes up. So just make sure that everything is clean and neat and everything that belongs to you is actually on there. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this one right here is big. So this one is, we're talking about credit management. How do you manage what's actually on there? So you'll see the range that we're talking about here today. On here on this slide, it says 300 to 800 credit score. Your credit score can actually go up to 850, but normally lenders consider a perfect credit score anything that's at 800. So anything over that, a lot of lenders may not give you a better rate, for example, if your credit score is 830 versus an 800 credit score. Because to them, if you have an 800 credit score, that means that you're reliable, you have the funds to take care of, any money that they lend you, you can probably pay it off in cash, things like that, and you're trustworthy. So we already talked about the first block, which is get rid of negative information on your credit report. The next one is you want to reduce your debt. So again, when we talk about that, that means that all of your credit cards, take a look at them and actually do the math. What is the max amount of money that the credit card has agreed to lend you? And then do the math from there. So we talked about if your credit limit is $5,000, then your balance should not be over 30%. which means your balance should not be over $1,500. And then if you really want to step it up and you want to get into the 800 credit score range, then your balance, your utilization should not be over 6%. I'm going to say that again. So at no time should your balance on any of your credit cards ever be over 30%. And if you want, and you are financially able to get into the 800 credit score range, your utilization rate should not be over 6% on any of your cards. The name of the game for the 800 credit score rating is to show lenders that you have available credit on your credit card, but you are not using it. You don't need it, I should say. So even if I have a credit card, I have credit cards that have nothing on them right now, but I'll go and I'll charge something small on it. I'll buy a pen for $3 and I'll let that sit on there for 3 weeks, and then I'll just go ahead and pay it off. So I'm using the credit card, but if my balance is $10,000, $15,000, I'm only using $3 or $10 a month. So the lenders can tell, okay, she can afford to have this credit card. She's not maxing it out. And then the next block, which again is very important, is paying your bills on time. There are so many things that we can do. A lot of times, especially when I was in my 20s, me not paying my bills on time was something as simple as just me not prioritizing myself and understanding how important it is to have good credit. Okay, so set up automatic payments. Just go however many credit cards you have. If you're just getting started, if you have poor credit, you should probably only have about 3. Now, don't go and close any of the cards that you have. But if somebody is just getting started and they're, trying to get established and they have credit cards or they want to have credit cards, maybe about 3 or 4 is a good amount to have to manage. So, just keep that in mind. Anything over that is kind of hard to even balance and deal with anyway. So just set up automatic payments. So before your due date, your balance, your minimum payment, or however you agree to make, or however much you can afford to make, is coming out of your checking account on time every month, and just go ahead and take care of that. And also another thing, this is something else that I used to do, so I'm putting myself out there. Before I got stable and things like that, I would set up automatic payments, but I didn't set up an overdraft protection on my checking account, which is something so simple to do. So basically, all you got to do is you just link your checking account to your savings account, just in case you have an additional expense that comes out, it'll automatically transfer to cover you. So there's no overdraft fees. Just doing simple things like that, just catching yourself and just making sure that, you're paying your bills on time and things like that. And so the next block is diversifying your credit accounts. We talked about that as well. Basically just making sure that if you have an auto loan, you have a small personal loan or something like that, where lenders can see that you're managing your mortgage properly, you're managing your credit cards properly. And I'm not telling people, don't think for 1 second that you have, in order to have an 800 credit score, that you have to have a bunch of debt. It's not like that at all. You can have your traditional mortgage. You can have your credit cards with less than 1% utilization on there. You don't have to have a lot of debt in order to have an 800 credit score. Whatever you have, you just have to manage it properly. And then you just have to have open accounts in good standing. So that's it. So, that's pretty much how colorful the wheel is going to look, and just the simple things that you have to do. You just keep doing things like this, and in about 6 months, you'll start to see progress. Does that make sense to you all? Go ahead and check in with me and let me know. Is that okay? My little Issa, you want to say hi?
Hi.
You just want to come downstairs real quick. And so let's go ahead and move on to the step number 3. Okay, so this is a really good one, because even if you don't have a lot of debt, you can download the Experian app. Thank you. Okay, so you can download the Experian app. And the great thing about this app, this one costs $7.95 a month, You can get access to all 3 credit bureaus if you'd like for an additional fee. But it's still good to have and pay for a subscription like this because you get to see exactly what's happening on your credit report. If it also gives you fraud protection. If for example, if someone you lose your card or something happens, you can always, they'll notify you and then you can change your password, which is always great. But the best thing about this one is they have a credit booster. So what is the credit booster? The credit booster is basically a tool where if you don't even have a lot of credit cards or anything like that to show that you have credit worthiness, you can sync up your checking account to this app. And if you have a Netflix subscription, you're paying your cell phone bill on time, simple things like that, your electric bill, it will help stimulate and boost your credit score. Thank you, Shayna. I'm telling you guys, a lot of people, they don't, it's hard to talk about finances. It is, and especially when Sean and I first got married, it's challenging. But if your finances are not in order, it is so stressful. Like, let's just be honest. The arguments start to happen, everything else, you start spacing apart. And this stuff is so important. And I'll talk about, some of the things that we used to do to kind of like help manage things and kind of like, make it more fun and enjoyable. But what's enjoyable is like being able to look towards the future and know that you're making progress. So even if you're in a dark space with your credit right now, or, you lost a job, it can be, yeah, you're right, Shannon. It could be very, very stressful. So even if you're in a dark space right now and you're trying to, get back on a different level or, pull yourself from out of the pits, it is possible. I promise you guys, it's so possible. And I'm saying that because I've been there. We've had the challenging conversations. Yes, Shayna, that's so true. Shayna said it's like with bad credit, you can't get a lot of things. Yep, that's very true. And you know what? And the reason why we're doing this here on Bloom today is because I so wish that conversations like this were happening in like middle school and high school. How to properly manage, credit cards and fight temptation and manage debt and things like that. Thank you, Deanne. I'm so glad that you caught that tip and that you're enjoying that. Definitely 6% utilization is the way to be, for sure. So I wish that they were having conversations like this in school, but maybe that's something that we'll get to in the future. But at the end of the day, it's about, us taking accountability for ourselves and doing the work. It is not challenging to do. It's just about prioritizing yourself and managing your finances and understanding the value that it brings to your life, and not only your life, the value that it brings to your children's lives. Because, I don't know about you all, growing up in my family dynamic, we didn't talk about finances. But, I'm noticing a change in how Sean and I are relating to our children when it comes to finances. We'll be open with them about how much is in our bank account or how much is in their bank account now, because we set up accounts for them. We're being honest with them about our credit scores, and we'll also have conversations with them as well about, what we didn't do right versus what we are doing right now. And, properties and things like that, how to purchase a home. That's what guys know I'm a realtor, so I love those kind of conversations too. So, wherever you're at now, you can just start over. And I just want to, make sure that people really understand that and don't get discouraged. And so, okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this one, I just want to, mention, this one is all about creating a timeline for managing debt and stick to it. It may seem challenging at first to sit down and go through your finances line by line. Sean and I went through our finances, our checking accounts, line by line. And I'm telling you, at one point, we realized that we had probably about, I think it was like $500 a month. It may have been a little bit more, maybe have been like 600. That was just going to ridiculous things. I mean, that's money that we could have been putting in our savings account. That's money that we could have been putting towards our children's education or investments or just whatever. But sometimes in life, we get on autopilot and we're not sitting down and having these type of conversations. So let me tell you what we used to do and what we still do now. Hi, thank you for joining. So let me tell you what we used to do and what we still do now. So we'll make it, yes, no fast food, Sean, you're right, it is definitely a money saver. So you'd be surprised, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, on how much money we're spending on fast food. And let's think about this, guys. So we're in the middle of a pandemic. This pandemic has been going on for like 14 months now. So prior to the pandemic, experts were telling us that we need to have 3 to 6 months of savings put away. Like 3 to 6 months. Now, I don't even know if we can even take that advice. We need at least a year. There are people who have been without a job, without access to childcare for well over a year now. That is challenging. So this pandemic has been very challenging, but it's a wake-up call for us also to start talking about our finances in a different way, start managing our money differently so we can get to a better place. And so if there's a chance that something like this happens again, hopefully it's not a pandemic, but even if there's a chance you're out of work for a whole year, for whatever reason, you are financially stable to take care of it. So we have to get to a point where we're taking care of the challenging things and taking care of the things that maybe we may not want to talk about right now, going through our finances, going through our checkbook, going through our credit accounts, and making sure that we're not spending money frivolously, to make sure that we have savings and things like that put aside so we can manage if we ever have a moment where we have to be out of work, or, for example, again. And so one of the things that Sean and I used to do, we used to create an atmosphere. We started talking about finances at home. And when we first started doing it, it got pretty hectic. It was really challenging. So we started going to a cafe, our favorite cafe, and we would order coffee. It would just be the two of us. And I'm old school when it comes to finances. I don't do spreadsheets. That does not work for me. You got to figure out what works for you. What worked for me is a little black book. And I would write down in here all of the debt that we had and where our money was going. And I would just do it line by line. If the credit card balance was at $7,000 or $10,000, I would just write that in there. And we would come up with a plan based upon how much income we had to pay it off. And, even if it took us a year, we just knew that we would be in a better place a year from now than we were before. And so I kept that book let me tell you something, guys. I didn't tell anybody this. Let me tell you how much debt we had to begin with. I'm gonna let y'all guess. Enter in the chat box, how much debt do you think that we had to pay off? I'm gonna let y'all guess how much debt that we paid off just by doing things like that. And I just want you to know how stressful, again, that it really was for us having to go line by line and pay off credit card debt to get rid of all this nonsense that we did not need, that was not serving us and that was not helping us. There was some tough conversations that we had. No, not including mortgage. Let's talk about, just guess how much credit card debt, personal loans, and things like that we had to pay off. Like he just said, 25,000. Okay, good guess. Charmaine, 80. Good guess. Shannon says, Sean, you can add your guess. 97, Debbie. Deanne, 47. Good guesses. Shayna, 50. Guys, we were so oblivious to the amount of debt that we were carrying on day by day. We sat down and we went through our numbers. $140,000. Tracy said $100,000. You're the closest. We had $140,000 of debt. That's crazy. Unnecessary. Yes. But guess what? We paid it all off. Paid it all off. And it was not easy, but I am telling you, we did it. We did it. The amount of stress that it puts on a family to even look at your account and realize that you have $140,000 worth of debt, I can't even begin to tell you what that chapter was like. It was challenging. And I'm telling you, that's exactly why I'm sitting here with you guys and I'm sharing this information with you, because a lot of times we get on autopilot and we're not looking at our finances and we're not doing the work and it just gets out of control. So I don't want that to happen for you guys. But we took care of it. It is done, a major accomplishment, and it was amazing. So create more of the story. Thank you, everyone, is to create a timeline for managing debt. Again, thank you. We're so happy to be over that chapter. Oh my goodness. Okay, so again, let's reiterate this. Your credit utilization on your card should not be any higher than 30%. And to get into the 800 range, you should be at no more than 6% utilization. So let me tell you the trick that we did. Yes, you're right, Charmaine. It's easy to get in over your head. Okay, so I'll tell you the story. Like he just said, how long did it take you to pay off that debt? Us paying off this debt was a God thing, okay? It was a God thing. So let me tell you exactly. So when you're paying off debt, a lot of people will tell you to organize your credit cards by the highest interest rate, okay? So if you have all your credit cards, let's say, for example, have a $5,000 balance on it, and most people would say organize it by your interest rate so you can pay off the card with the highest interest rate first, which makes sense because if the interest rate is higher, it's costing you more money every month to continue to have that card, have a balance on that card. That makes sense. But here's what we did that was different, because you have to know yourself. Oh, excuse me. So you have to know yourself. And knowing yourself means that I am a person of instant gratification. So what I did and what we did that was different was we organized our card from smallest to largest. And whatever card had the smallest balance, I need some water. Whatever card had the smallest balance, we paid that one off first. Ooh, 1 second, guys. Isn't he good? He just brought me some water. Okay, thank you. So I think I'm back. Okay, so what we did was we organized our credit cards from smallest to largest. So whatever credit card had the smallest balance, we paid that one first. And the reason why we did it like this, and maybe a lot of financial advisors may not tell you to do it like this, but it worked for us. We got instant gratification off the fact that we did something, we accomplished something. So we paid a whole card off. Even if the balance is like, $700, you feel good that you paid off a card that's $700. And that's exactly what we did. Yes, Dave Ramsey is phenomenal. Dave Ramsey is definitely phenomenal. So that's exactly what we did. And it worked. And so we continued to pay it off. And we were just so we paid off the smallest card, and the payment that we were making on the smallest card, we just took that same amount of money. We continued to make the minimum payments on all the other cards that we had, minimum payments. And then the smallest card that we had with the smallest balance, we made the minimum payment, but we made an additional payment on that until we paid that card off. And then however much money that we continued to put on the smaller card, we took it and we applied it to the next one. And then we just kept doing it. Does that make sense? Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And so we eventually paid off all of our cards. And so we set up all of our cards on automatic payment. It took us, this was a miracle about a year to pay off $140,000 worth of debt. But it required a lot of sacrifices. It required also us not going out to eat as much. And when I say a year from when we determined in our minds that we were going to pay off these credit cards and take care of it. Once we realized that we had this amount of debt and that we need to take care of it, it took us a year. And there's something to be said about that, because when we first started working on our paying off our debt, we were not financially in a position to even take care of and pay off that amount of debt. We weren't in a position to do it. We really were almost like at like a rock bottom moment, but it happened. And so I truly believe that God stepped in and we were determined, and God brought us financial opportunities via employment that put us in a position to pay off that debt. So I'm not taking credit for that. That was honestly a God thing, how that all worked out. So it took us a year just to answer Akeisha. That was the long route to get to your answer. Oh, you said you just paid. Akeisha said she just paid off a credit card. She was so happy. She said, I have one more to go. And that's the biggest one. You can do it. You can totally do it. There is something to be said about determining in your mind that you're going to take care of something and that it's going to happen. Because once you determine in your mind that you're going to take care of something, negativity and negative people better just get out of your way, because I'm telling you, something amazing is going to happen, and it's just going to step in and it's going to bless you to be able to take care of that card. Even if the balance is very high, just be open to the fact that, yes, Charmaine, that favor is in your area, it's in your space, and that God can bless you where that card you may think that it'll take you a year, but it'll take you a month, for example. You just never know. So just be open to the fact that wherever you are now, it's not where you're going to be forever. Okay, so I hope that answers everyone's questions about managing debt and creating a timeline. So just do whatever works for you. You can do it where you're paying off the smallest balance first, or if it works for you where you want to pay off the card with the highest interest rate, you can definitely do that and just work your way down. Whatever you do, make sure you set up automatic payments so you're not getting behind on your payments. Take a deep dive into your finances, figure out what you need to cut. If it's a situation where you have to pick up another job or you need to stop going out to eat, be okay with telling people, no, I can't do this right now. I can't go out to dinner with you. You don't have to spend $75 on a meal just to have a good time. And if someone has an issue with that, then you know that person is not there for you. Just think about prioritizing yourself. And this last year, this pandemic has been very challenging on a lot of people. You know who is in your inner circle that really cares about you and wants to see you succeed. Okay? So the people that want to see you do better are going to be the ones that are going to be okay with the fact that you are prioritizing yourself and trying to live a better life. So Shayna says, eating out is my biggest problem. I need to cook more. Yes. Mm-hmm. So Shayna, I challenge you to please do this, because I love eating out too. And going out to eat is delicious. It really is. But I challenge you, can you just please just take the time, maybe even, this upcoming weekend, go through your statements and just see how much money you're spending going out to eat. Just see how much money you're spending, just so you could just know, just see where you're at. Okay. And I'm not saying, if it makes sense to you financially, going out to eat, maybe it doesn't have to be a 3 times a week thing. Maybe it just needs to be every Friday. So it's a reward. So it's a treat. And so you can maybe get to the point where you're enjoying cooking or something like that. Just so, listen, again, I'm being honest. I've been at times when I first separated from the military, I took a 50% pay cut. That was very challenging, because when you're making a certain amount of money, you're expecting to continue making that same amount of money. Now, I'm not trying to be, Debbie Downer on anyone. That was my story, and it was hard. So you want to make sure that you're always planning the fact that you have money set aside just in case you need to pull from it. And one thing that I realized when, I separated from the Air Force and I took that pay cut, McDonald's or, wherever those places that I was going to eat, they're not like trying to offer you any money. Like, oh, you took a 50% pay cut. Let me give you $15 to help you get by this week. They do not care. They don't care. So the money that we're spending to give to them, they're just getting richer. And nothing against McDonald's, but the people who own these franchises, they are rich. They're rich, and I honestly, especially with women, I want us to get to a place where we're sharing information and we really truly want our queens to be rich too. So I want you guys to be rich. I want all of us to be rich. And so, when we get to a place where we're just so wealthy, we have abundance, we can also, be in a better position where we can bless others who really need it as well. So, just when you get a chance, yes, Shayna says it's unhealthy and not good financially, but just take a second and just look and see, where you're spending your money and how things look and things like that, just so you have an idea of how much you're spending. Because I've been there too. So I'll just put that out there. And so let's move on to, but hold on 1 second before we move on. I want to show you guys, I'm not sure if are you aware of what an amortization calculator is? Okay, so if you're not familiar with it, this is a good website that I'm going to share. We're going to share a link for you to look at as well. And so it is always very good. So whenever you purchase a home or do something like that, they always give you a copy of your amortization breakdown. And basically what that is it'll show you how much you're borrowing. Let's say you're borrowing $300,000, for example, and your interest rate is 3%. It'll show you how much money you're paying in interest and how much you're paying in principal. So the amount of money that you're paying on principal is actually the amount of money that's actually going towards the loan. Now, majority of the time, especially with a home purchase, when you're borrowing money, the amount of money that you're borrowing, majority of the money that you're paying, I should say, is going towards interest, okay? So the amortization calculator is extremely important and very useful. Charmaine says she's very familiar with this one, which is awesome, because it'll show you exactly where your money is going. But then you can also look at it and say, okay, if my mortgage is $300,000 and I continue to make the same payment that I'm making now, and I add in let's say, okay, even if you can only afford to do a $150 payment every month on principal, how long will it take me to pay off my mortgage? And so that could be a good way for you to show you, okay, well, if you budget where you're able to make an additional payment of $150 a month, you'll shave off 7 years off of the balance of your loan. So you'll pay off your home sooner. Okay. And so just get familiar with this. If you've never looked at amortizations, calculator or schedule, there's also, anytime you want to borrow money for a vehicle, it'll show you, they have calculators on here. It has cost of retirement calculators, so many different things on here. But one of my favorites, again, I just want to mention, is the amortization calculator. I really want to start like a group where it's like, let's plan to pay off mortgages, like something like that would just seem so amazing to me, because it's doable. There are people who are living and, who do not have a mortgage payment. So I love amortization calculators. It's like one of my favorite things. I look at it all the time. I definitely, would love to get to a point where we pay off our mortgages. And I want other people to get to that point too. So I guess, normally realtors are always telling you, go purchase another home and do this and do that. And I want people to live in the home that they want to live in the home of their dreams. But at the end of the day, we also have to plan for retirement, right? So, being able to get to a point where, we're budgeting our money and we're able to put additional payments on our mortgage is phenomenal. Nobody wants to be 70 years old and, still thinking about, unfortunately, there are people still in that, scenario. But if you can prevent it, you want to get to a point where you're retiring and you're able to just relax and just enjoy life and just enjoy it however long you can. And so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next slide we're going to talk about is some of the benefits of having an 800 plus credit score. Okay, so it's a given. You have an 800 plus credit score, you can have any credit card you want, any credit card that you want. You can get your annual fees waived. A lot of times you get credit cards with 0% financing. You can get any store card that you want. You can get the best mortgage rates. Guys, mortgage rates were just down to, anyone know? 1.75%. That's like unheard of. That's amazing. So you have 800 credit score, you can get your homes refinanced. 1.75%. We refinanced our home and it made sense and we did it. But you can, if your credit score is where it needs to be at 800, you can refinance your home and save hundreds of $1,000s. You get the lowest insurance premiums, personal loans, even apartment rentals. But here's the biggest one, okay? If you can get to the point where you have an 800 credit score and you're managing it properly, a lot of people don't know is you can add your children on your credit card as an authorized user. And some people may say, well, why would I want to do that? I don't want them maxing out my cards and messing up my credit. Well, you don't have to give them a card. You can keep the card to yourself. But if you call your bank, let's say you have an American Express card, and most American Express cards will allow you to add your children as an authorized user as low as 13 years old. You can have a 13-year-old with an 800 credit score just because of the pure fact that you took the time to manage your finances right and you're setting your children up for success. And so if we're having conversations with our children regularly about how to manage our finances properly, and again, we're all still learning. Yes, see, Tracy said her kids are on hers. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Amen. Like, celebrate you for that. That's awesome. And so if we're getting to the point where we're managing our finances properly, we can add our children on as an authorized user. We can keep the card, continue to teach and educate and mentor them to make sure that they know how to use credit properly. One thing that I think is insane to me, Charmaine, let's highlight that. Her 23-year-old son has a 780. It's an awesome way to help them. That's fantastic. Claps for that. I love to hear things like that as well. One of the things that I think is absolutely insane, that, it is so challenging to get a business loan. Very challenging to get a business loan. But as soon as you send your child to college, they'll go there, and a lot of times there's vendors, they're getting applications in the mail. They don't even have a job yet, and they're getting applications to get in credit card debt or to sign up for loans, and we'll defer the payments until you graduate from college, and all these other things. And a lot of times, they're still not teaching how to manage your finances properly in school. And so, but then these young children, and I'm pointing the fingers at myself because I didn't know anything about credit cards and how to manage debt and, how to be responsible. I think my first credit card, I left the house when I was 17. I joined the military. My first credit card was at American Express. I don't know if anybody's familiar with American. No, not American Express. That's a credit card. But my first credit card was with Express Clothing. That's it. Express Clothing. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Express Clothing, but I, for some reason, just thought they just had the best cards ever. And my limit was $500, which is nothing. Just $500. And I destroyed it. I didn't take care of it. I didn't make my payments on time. I didn't do any of those things. And so, I messed up my credit. I just didn't know how to balance, manage it properly. I didn't know how to be dedicated and taking care of those things. And so, yes, they had the best jeans though, Tracy. You were right about that. They did. They had the best jeans. And so, I didn't manage it properly. And then, something as simple as not learning how to, or not knowing how to manage a $500, credit limit is something that, it takes like 7 years for things like that to fall off your credit report. And that's a long time to have to pay for that. You're talking about, you want to get to the point where you could purchase a home and things like that. So I love the fact that was my Spot Express. Yep, Debbie Express and JCPenney reported me to the man. Yep, see? Yep, thank you for your honesty. Like, I've been there too. So there are a lot of companies that are so quick to lend you money. And so I think it's good that we're having these kind of conversations openly together so we can get to a place where, even, us ourselves, we want to make sure that we have great credit, but then also our children to make sure that they have the credit that they need. And, a lot of us, our goals are, from when our children leave the house, that they have excellent credit themselves and they know how to manage their finances properly, and then that they're purchasing their first home, even if it's a condo or a townhome, something that they can use and that they can have to invest in their future. And so, so that's something I just want to, make sure we just, highlight on. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so these are for my couples out there, or, whether you're married, you have a significant other that you're serious with and you manage finances together, whoever you are, if you're with somebody that you love and that you trust and you're managing your finances, together, assign the right tasks to the right people. Schedule weekly meetings. We talked about this. Sean and I will go to a coffee shop and we'll have everything outlined in the little black book of where we stand with our finances. And, if you're to the point where, you can hire a financial advisor, we had a financial advisor on Bloom as a guest to help you take your finances to the next level. Definitely invest in one. But, it's important to also, to lead in your household as well and manage your finances and make sure that all the language, that what's going on with your budget, your cars and things like that, and assign responsibilities to whoever manage things properly. So, if someone else, if your wife or your husband is more organized, and keeping things, jotted down and making sure payments are happening on time, like just relinquish some of control and just let that person take care of it and do what they need to do. And then they can back brief you. If someone else is more, organized at scheduling the meeting place, then let that person do what they need to do. But work together as a team. Again, I want to reiterate, wherever you start from is not where you finish. We have some challenging times. We are in a much better place, and I'm excited and I'm happy. So whoever you are, if you're out there, if you're trying to get your credit right, make sure that you're working together as a team. Do not tear each other apart, because that is not healthy and it is distracting you from the objective. So we can move on to the next one. And this is a big one. So we've talked on Bloom before about saying no to things and people that do not align with your goals. Okay. A lot of times in life, and I've done this too in my immaturity, we'll spend money and do things to impress people that don't even like us. Okay, it is okay to say no to an engagement or to going out to dinner with someone if you need to save. You don't owe anybody any explanation. If it's not in your budget for this week and somebody wants to go out for have drinks tonight, you just say no, or I'm busy. You don't have to tell them that, it's not in your budget. Yep, Charmaine, set and establish boundaries. You don't have to tell them that it's not in your budget. That's none of their business. They don't need to know that. Just tell them, no, I cannot do that tonight. Learn to say no to people and things that do not align with your goals. Okay. So just remember that. The whole premise of this discussion is about taking the time to prioritize yourself, your vision for your life, and where you want to be. Okay. There is absolutely nothing more important than that. Align yourself with where you want to be, stick to your plan, and just follow through. Okay. Let's go to the next one. And we're going to just end here, I should say. So this one is, I want to end you all with this quote. So the secret to change, again, is to focus all your energy on not fighting the old, but on building the new. And so what that means to me, especially as it relates to finances, is to get an idea of where you stand currently and just focus your energy more so on where you want to be. Okay, so debt free. What else do you want to be? You want to have $300,000 in savings. It's doable. It's doable. You can do it. Don't let people tell you that you cannot do it. And then also, if that's your goal, what is it going to take for you to get there? How much money do you have to put aside every month for you to get to that point? If they're doing it, you can do it. It doesn't matter where you live right now. You can own your home. You can own a home. You can own a dream home. Okay. So I want to end this conversation because I'm sure there are people out there who may not be where they want to be, but I want to remind you and tell people that if you never heard all of our full story before, but there were times when we couldn't afford, a home, and I would drive around because I wasn't willing to settle either. I would drive around in the dream neighborhoods that I wanted to live in weekly. Now that may sound crazy, but I made it. I would drive around to my dream homes and dream communities weekly and just give myself 5 minutes and just meditate there. This is my vision. This is where I feel like God wants me to be. And I just believed it. I may be here right now, but God has something better in store for me. And so drive the car. If you want to drive your dream car, go test drive that dream car, even if you can't afford it right now. If you want to go, looking at homes, you don't have to call a realtor. Go to an open house. Just go. Put yourself in the space of where you want to be. I can understand that, Akeisha. Yep. The price of homes, and the jobs are not paying. So that's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge. But, I just don't want anyone to get discouraged. Just try not to get discouraged and just realize and know that whatever you want is available. Don't talk yourself out of it. Even if the home is something that maybe does not look good or you can't realistically afford right now in this moment, don't write it off. Don't write it off. Put it on your vision board and say, you know what, if it's meant for me to be in that home, gotta make a way. Because if that home is $50,000 out of budget, for example, and the market is saying that it's worth that, would you turn down a pay increase if it came to you? I'm just saying that I believe that positive energy a lot of times brings forth blessings too. So I've had times where things were maybe out of my reach at the time, and I just wasn't there where I needed to be. But I just focus on what can I do every day to get me one step closer to where I wanted to be. And so, just keep yourself in that space of, if it's not this one, there's going to be a next one. If this is not the right house for me, there's going to be another house. If this is not the right car for me, there's going to be another car. It can work out. And again, I don't want to take you guys over time, but I've had examples of how it can work out for you. But, it can work out and things can work in your favor, even if financially it does not look that way right now. I promise you. So let's just all just commit to taking the time to write down, what are our goals financially? What do you want? Where do you see yourself in the next year? Where do you want to live in the next year? And just visualize and meditate on that. And then also set objectives and goals. And again, that may be a completely different discussion. If you guys want to dive deeper into something else, if you want to dive deeper into a conversation about how we paid off, so much debt, and things like that, or, how to set objectives and goals for accomplishing things, whatever, just send me a message, inbox me. I'll put something together. I actually have fun doing these slides, and we can talk about it. But I love you guys, and I hope you got something out of the conversation today. Again, Credit score was terrible. It's great now, and it's going to stay great. I do not play about my credit score, okay? I am on it. I always look into my accounts to see how much money I have. I just do not play about it. So I want to leave you guys with a positive thought and know that wherever you are now, as long as you do the work and you stay focused on positive things, that great things will come to you. And if you need anything else, reach